Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly and maintenance video for you on this little dude right here. This is the Spyderco Watu. So let's go inside this guy and see what is happening in there. Okay. Pop this loose. Looks like T8. Oh, that's tight. Is this thread locked? All right. How I'm going to handle this is pretty simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this little driver here. And it's got a little, what am I going for here? Got a little bit more torque to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and turn it this way and see if that works. Yeah, we're turning pretty straightforwardly. The nice part about this approach is I'm not having to use weird angles or anything like that. Yeah, this was just thread locked pretty impressively there. All right, we pulled that loose. Let's see whether the other ones end up in the same position, although it looks like, oh no, we have to take out all three of the other screws. All right, whatever. But now that I got that popped loose, we are through. Yeah, it looks like they're using that white Tai Chung thread lock. It doesn't generally cause problems, but here they probably just put a lot of it on there. Okay, looks like the other ones, okay, this is T8 as well. And that one didn't actually have as much of a thread lock problem, so that makes me think that was just a misapplication rather than a change in policy. All right, pop that loose. T6, no problem. Well, okay, T6 isn't ideal, but it provided no problems. Wow, did they thread lock this guy. You can see right here all the excess. But okay, looks like we are all set here. I should just be able to pop this guy apart now. There we go. Lift it off the carbon fiber-esque scale. Again, this is not a true carbon fiber in that it doesn't go all the way through. Well, okay, it's true carbon fiber on the outside, but it's G10 on the inside. So there's that. And then I'll just lift off this liner here. Nice and easy. Controlling the blade as I do so, because that's the part of the knife that's problematic. And actually, I'm going to use this little spudger tool to get up inside here. There we go. Beautiful. By the way, if you're ever curious about any of the tools I'm using for any of my disassembly videos, go to nickshabazz.com/tools. You will see a full listing of them. I'm not wearing a watch. That's weird. All right. We have got a bushing pivot here, which is cool. I think. Yeah, bushing pivot. That's cool. So what I mean by that is I've got this extra little collar basically on the pivot itself, and that extra collar is what is holding, basically the knife shuts. It's, how do I put this? When I torque down the pivot screw, what I'm actually doing is I'm pinching this in there, which means there's a little less pressure on the blade itself. It demands tolerances that are a little tighter, but it works out quite well. It's a good idea, and I love the fact that Spyderco has started doing bushing pivots in more of their knives because the actions they tend to give you are very, very smooth and nice. So that's good. Aside from that, this looks like a pretty vanilla recent Spyderco compression lock. You can see here they've got that supplemental stop pin in there, just to provide a little bit more extra beef, I gather. So that's good. Cleaning this guy off with some rubbing alcohol here, 91% isopropyl. And that's good. That is the one thing. It is June something or another. June 12th, June 14th. Anyways, it's mid-June here in the California. And the one thing that supply-wise has not yet recovered from the Rona is rubbing alcohol. So I've been having to be a little bit cheap with it, but I was able to find the bottle, so I'm hanging in there. Hanging in there. But anyways, let's go ahead and clean off the pivot, and I'm just going to put it onto this screwdriver so that I can rotate it around. Beautiful. Alrighty. There we go. Nice. Clean this off. That's nice. Everything looks good. Ceramic detent ball. Phosphor bronze washes. Inside of this is pretty straightforward. 20 CV blade, which I appreciate seeing. Historically, Spyderco has done S30V out of the Tai Chung factory. And S30V is a fine steel as well, but it's nice to see the whole shebang, so to speak. There are very few people who are going to tell you the 20CV is worse than S30V, and pretty much everyone's going to say it's a lot better. So it's nice to see them upgrading that. I hope that continues throughout their lineup over there in the Taichung factory in the future. Okay, so now it's reassembly time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some knife pivot lube for this, just because washer actions, it tends to be pretty good. Let's go ahead and, whoopsies. I also want to thank very much my buddy, Loca Matador, who has been very patiently awaiting the return of this piece. He's a very kind patron, actually, who offered to loan this guy my way, because I gather that Spyderco has been a little bit... my normal approach of getting Spydercos from Spyderco hasn't happened, and I've been super, oh my god, crazy busy. So, yeah, having the loaner was just perfect. Does it let me get one of these guys on my table in a manner that is quicker than had I had to do everything myself? But hopefully I'm getting out of that. So one thing to note, now I've got this bushing on here, and the washer goes on there first, and then that bushing. The bushing needs to sit on top of that washer. And that means then, or what that allows basically, is that the washers don't rotate. Instead, the knife pivot itself rotates on the bushing. So if I just drop this onto here, you'll see, yeah, there it sits just like that. Then on the other side, what I need to do is identify again the side of the washer that it was up against the bushing. That is this side. I'm going to put down a little bit of lubrication right out here. That way the blade rotates on the washer. I'm also going to put a little lubrication in the detent ball hole area there. Make things a little easier. Drop this into place. Beautiful. And then we can put the scale back onto this. Am I missing anything? I'm going to go ahead and, because I wasn't able to really... There we go. A little bit on the detent ball itself. And let's just drop this whole affair in back together. Okay, I might have to, yeah. I needed to press the compression lock in this direction in order to let everything snap itself back together. But that's okay. That's a perfectly reasonable approach to life. All right, am I doing this backwards? No, I'm not. Okay, step one actually is going to be to put in the pivot. And this time I'm going to use a different thread locker. I'm going to use some Loctite thread locker on a stick here. And go ahead and I'm going to clean some of the thread lock out of the pivot screw. Just get rid of some of that. There you go. That's an improvement. And let's go ahead. And this thread lock will grab a little less aggressively, which will make it better for my buddy to take apart at a future date. All right, tightening that down a little bit, but not too much. When I just popped that loose, it lifted some of the back screws off there, so I want to make sure I'm not doing that. Let's screw this into place here. Beautiful. Let's screw this into place here. Beautiful. And then we put this final one in place, and because, I kind of want to scrape off a little of this, because that's a bit much, Spyderco. Come on. There we go. A little of that out of the way. The pocket clip is on the opposite side, so we don't have to worry about fitting that in there. So I can just tighten this guy in place. But I do, in fact, need to tighten it in place because there is a standoff in the middle there that this is going into. And so this provides a source of structural integrity. Okay, so now in terms of action, we are back to centered, which is good. Okay, there is substantial blade play, though, which means I'm going to want to tighten the pivot some. Tighten that down. Whew. Still substantial blade play. That's fine. There we go. No blade play at all. Maybe feeling a little over tight. So let's back it off just a hint. Okay, super smooth action now. A little tiniest micro bit of blade play. So let's go ahead and tighten just a tad. No play at all. Nice drop shutty action. Centering is not quite on, but that's okay, because I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is, so centering right now is very slightly favoring the, looks like the show side, so what I'm going to do is very slightly loosen these screws. Now that I have the pivot fully in position, that should let things, kind of let some of the tension out of the system, and hopefully get everything locked into position there. Let's move this over this way. Okay, tighten. And I'm just applying a little bit of force to the other side there. This side I want the pivot to go as I lock this in place. Maybe a little off still. Let's close it again. Very, very slightly favoring show. Very slightly. Which means the pivot is ever so slightly. I'm going to try and crank the pivot ever so slightly more. A little bit off. I don't think I actually did anything to the pivot there. Oh, it's pretty damn close. Okay, anyways, there we go. That is the Watu disassembly. I hope you enjoyed Watuing this video so far, and keep an eye out shortly for the full review. This one I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into the full review on, just because, rather than doing a sneak preview, because I'm about to film the full review. I actually, just because of the craziness of my life, ended up carrying this guy for a while before actually filming disassembly. So anyways, long story short, shortly you're going to be getting the real review. So there you go. Rejoice, enjoy, and most of all, have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.